Hello, I'm Bobby. I'm here with Anthony, my co-host on the Buckle Bomb Show, and this is part 2 of our top 10 WWE moments that have aged poorly. Number 3. Mr. McMahon forcing Trish Stratus to strip. We all remember the time when Trish Stratus was forced to bark like a dog in the ring. The part that gets discussed a bit less is what happened in the moments after that. In early 2001, Trish and Mr. McMahon would have an on-screen love affair, with Vince treating Trish abusively and with utter disrespect. On a Raw a few weeks before WrestleMania 17, as Trish would beg for forgiveness from Mr. McMahon for some perceived slight, McMahon would force Trish to crawl and apologize in dog language. Then McMahon would force Trish to start stripping down. A crying, pleading Trish would be down to taking her bra off, as McMahon would finally stop her, cover her with his blazer, and send the humiliated and degraded diva to the back. Now, sure, you could argue that this was exactly what the Mr. McMahon character would do, and Trish, to her credit, has defended the moment, saying that it was important for the character to be at that rock bottom so that her getting her comeuppance at WrestleMania would be that much better. That's all well and good, except what really makes this incredibly uncomfortable to watch are the fans. The fans cheering as Trish is abused, defamed, and forced to strip against her will is not a good look for the WWE Universe. Oh yeah, and those Wall Street Journal stories about Vince McMahon earlier this year certainly don't help this moment play any better in 2022.
My number 2 entry on this list is the wedding of Billy and Chuck. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to read verbatim what I had written down about this because there are a lot of names and organizations that were rightfully pissed off at WWE about this, and I do not want to do them any injustice by not reading their names. The media jumped on the story that WWE would be holding a same-sex union on the September 12th episode of SmackDown. Billy Gunn and Chuck Palumbo were scheduled to be joined in a commitment ceremony. The week prior, Chuck got down on one knee and proposed to Billy to become committed partners for life. This immediately got the attention of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the New York Post TV guide Howard Stern, and the Today Show because of the potential social ramifications. This is the early 2000s. It was not the way it is now. Scott Seaman, an official with the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, or GLAAD, went as far as to get Billy and Chuck a gravy boat as a wedding present. I shit you not, this is actually something that happened due to WWE promising GLAAD that there was no fuckery with this and it was 100% legit. The wedding ended abruptly when both men stopped and came out as straight and said that this was just a publicity stunt in storyline. The preacher then revealed himself to be Eric Bischoff in prosthetics and had 3-minute warning beat up Billy and Chuck as well as Stephanie McMahon. WWE promised GLAAD this was a legit storyline. GLAAD is the same organization, for all you wrestling historians out there, that only a few years earlier complained that WCW's version of a gay tag team, Lenny and Lodi, was gay bashing. It was making fun of gay people that may not be out at the time. GLAAD stated having a wrestler that hinted that he may be gay and then subsequently be beaten up in the ring was nothing less than gay bashing. Looking back, it's easy to see how hurtful this was to the LGBT community.
Number 2. Mick Foleys' 11 unprotected chair shots at the 1999 Royal Rumble. Who can forget the day Mankind won his first WWF Championship on the first Raw of 1999? However, as we were destined for a matchup between The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 15, Mankind's title reign would be short-lived. Thus, an I Quit match was booked at the Royal Rumble against The Rock. The story being, how in the hell could The Rock ever get Mankind to say I quit, who at this point had already fallen off Hell in a Cell and was well known for being able to take incredible punishment. They would have, quite frankly, a fantastic match, with Mankind taking all the punishment The Rock could throw at him, and yet still having to cheat with a recording to win. The most brutal of that punishment would include 11 chair shots to Mankind's head, all of them with Mankind's hands handcuffed behind his back. The story of the match was so enthralling, and at the time, chair shots to the head were so commonplace in wrestling as to have already become cliche. that many of us fans would overlook it beyond the context of the match. It wouldn't be until the excellent Beyond the Mat documentary would come out in October that it would dawn on fans just how sickeningly brutal it really was, all while Mick's wife and kids were watching at ringside. And now, many years later, with all we have learned about concussions, it makes the match damn near impossible to watch.
And finally, my number one, any WWE storyline that has to do with sexual assault. In a feud with Booker T, Kurt Angle was painted as a sexual predator after attacking Sharmell backstage and forcing himself on top of her. In a feud with Matt Hardy, Kane coerced Lita to have sex with him to save Matt Hardy from being beat up anymore by Kane. This led to Lita becoming pregnant and eventually having a miscarriage. There was the angle that whatever the hell Heidenreich and Michael Cole did backstage. These are all disgusting, but not just because of what we consider socially acceptable these days. The Ring Boy scandal, the Ashley Massaro rape cover-up, the allegations from WWE's real first female referee, Rita Chatterton, the idea that Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson were backstage in writing meetings and approved of any of this while they had their own fucking skeletons in their closet is absolutely deplorable and disgusting to me. We need to do better as wrestling fans at putting a stop to people like this working in the industry. And it starts with all of you at home on a local level looking into who's running your local promotions.
Number 1. Triple H marrying a drugged Stephanie McMahon. Once upon a time, Stephanie McMahon was a wholesome, sweet, and innocent character on WWF television. I know, hard to imagine these days. In the fall of 1999, sweet, wholesome Stephanie and Test fell in love and got engaged. The wedding was set for Raw on November 29th. Of course, a televised wedding in wrestling can never go as planned. A heel Triple H would interrupt the ceremony. He would throw to some footage on the Titantron. Said footage would be of Triple H driving a car down the Las Vegas Strip the night before. Triple H pulls up to the infamous Little White Chapel and into its drive-through wedding lane, the Tunnel of Love. The camera pans over to find a passed-out Stephanie McMahon in the passenger seat, apparently having been drugged at her bachelorette party earlier in the night. Through a rushed ceremony and some voice mimicking, it is revealed that Triple H has officially married Stephanie. Cut back to Stephanie in tears screaming, "I hate you," at Triple H as he says,
"Not did we, but how many times did we consummate the marriage?"
Cut to black. Yep, that's right. Not only did we just see a non-consensual marriage of a drugged woman, Raw went off the air with an implication of rape. I don't think any more needs to be said, really. That will do it for this episode of The Card. Make sure to catch next week's episode, part 1 on Tuesday and part 2 on Thursday. And catch Anthony and I every Sunday on The Buckle Bomb Show. For Anthony, I'm Bobby. Stay safe and love wrestling. The preceding announcement has been paid for by Bomb Media Production.